On Monday, April 18th, as Bayfield University's bell rings, the movie begins. On her birthday, Teresa Tree Gelbman, Jessica Roth, wakes up hungover in Carter Davis's, Israel Broussard, dorm room. She doesn't answer her father's call when he calls. After requesting Tylenol, Tree is about to leave when she notices Carter's roommate Ryan, Faivu, entering and embarrassingly inquiring if he slept with her. Tree encounters Tim, Caleb Spilliards, a man she had on a date with, as she makes her way to her room. When he asks Tree why she hasn't responded to his texts, she responds that their date at Subway made her miserable and that's why she hasn't. When Tree enters her room, she finds Lori Spangler, Ruby Modine, her flatmate. Tree rushes to get ready after realizing she will be late for class. Then Lori gives her a cupcake that she made especially for Tree. Because the cupcake contains carbohydrates, Tree blows out the candle and throws it in the trash. After class, Gregory Butler, Charles Aitken, Tree's professor, meets with her. Despite the fact that Gregory is married, the two are having an affair. After Tree kept it from moving, his wife Stephanie, Laura Clifton, is at the door. For a meeting on a spring dance, Tree joins her sorority sisters at lunch. Becky, Cariella Smith, a sister, gets reprimanded by Danielle Bausman, Rachel Matthews, the head sister, for bringing junk food to consume. When Becky stands up to leave, she runs into Carter and spills her lunch all over Tree. Tree drags Carter aside to continue covering up the fact that she stayed in his room when Carter tries to give her some jewelry that she left behind. Later that night, Danielle invites Tree to a party being held at a dorm. Tree moves alone through the campus as he passes a group of men sporting the baby's uniforms of the school's sports team. She hears the sound of a music box as she passes a bridge. When Tree moves over to grab the box, she notices a person wearing a baby mask standing just in front of her. The person flees when she makes a threat to call the police. Tree starts to go, but the person in the mask pursues her. Once he has Tree, he stabs her to death. In the early hours of the following day, Tree awakens in Carter's room. She exits the room, obviously startled and perplexed, and believes she is experiencing déjà vu. She returns to her room and turns down Lori's cupcake once more, but this time she just leaves it rather than throwing it away. After Gregory has locked the door, Stephanie finds her inside his office. Tree tells Becky before Carter runs into her during lunch, yet the same things continue to occur. Tree returns to the party, avoiding the bridge this time. When she enters the dorm, someone wearing the baby mask welcomes her, making her scream and strike the person in the face. It turns out to be Danielle's boyfriend Nick, Blaine Kern III. Tree is getting a surprise party. She moves around drinking and attempting to have fun. She climbs the stairs to Nick's room, where he is fiddling with the mask. However, the true murderer enters the space and stabs Nick to death. When Tree isn't looking, Danielle texts her, accusing her of sleeping with Nick behind her back and making the implication that it has occurred before. The killer attacks Tree and kills her with a broken bong piece. Tree awakens once more in Carter's bedroom. This time, she's much more alarmed. She dashes to her room to alert Lori of her pursuers. She is soothed by Lori, who advises her to take the day off and unwind in her room. In order to keep people out, Tree boarded up the chamber and locked it. The murderer nonetheless breaks in later that evening. Despite repelling the murderer, Tree is nevertheless fatally stabbed. Tree describes her condition to Carter after going through the same things again. Carter is obviously perplexed. He advises her to exclude some people from her list of potential suspects until she can identify the murderer. Since Danielle informed everyone at school about the surprise party, Carter believes the murderer may be targeting Tree specifically since it is her birthday. As a result, everyone at the school is a suspect. As she pursues her suspicions, Tree makes a number of loopholes. Tim gets caught in his room watching homosexual porn while she is first going for him. She suspects Stephanie after dying a second time, but she sees Stephanie just before the killer drowns her. She suspects Danielle, but after the two struggle and are struck by a bus, she passes away all by herself. Tree thinks Gregory might be the murderer after checking those names off the list. After having an X-ray taken, she discovers that she has inside damage from her past deaths and searches for him at the hospital. Tree discovers a baby mask in Gregory's drawer while searching through his office. But after stabbing Gregory, the murderer follows Tree into the parking lot. She enters a car and exits. A police officer stops her for speeding as she joyfully believes that she has survived death. Tree fabricates an excuse for being intoxicated and high in order to get locked up and away from the murderer. The killer drives by and strikes the cop as she is handcuffed and placed in the back of the vehicle. The killer drops a birthday candle to ignite the fuel and blow up Tree once the petrol tank begins to leak. Once more, Tree awakens in Carter's bedroom. She uses a few occurrences she's been noticing repeatedly to demonstrate her prescience, including a car alarm going off, kids being hit by sprinklers while they are studying, and a group of activists standing together as one of them collapses to the ground. Tree is now weaker with each loop, so Carter drives her to the nearest burger joint. She is beginning to fear that she might be nearing the end of her life. Carter is informed by Tree that her mother passed away 3 years prior and that she avoids her father's calls. Later, they catch a news program on TV about Joseph Toombs, Rob Mello, a serial killer with a history of preying on young women. Tree thinks she can finally stop him because she thinks he is the murderer. To stop Toombs, Tree and Carter sprint to the hospital, but he has already murdered the security man and fled. Tree tries to flee the Toombs by grabbing a fire axe. Tree is shielded by Carter, but Toombs snaps his neck. While Tree is able to take down Toombs, she realizes that Carter will remain dead if she is unable to halt the loops. Before Toombs can reach her, she runs to the top of the bell tower, where she hangs herself while vowing to soon track down Toombs. Tree has a better attitude as it begins the new loop. Carter is cordially greeted by her, the pupils are warned about the sprinklers, and Lori is greeted with friendliness as she enters her room. When Tim approaches her, she sweetly informs him that she is aware of his dislike of girls and that he ought to be allowed to love whoever he truly desires. When Tree enters Gregory's class, she interrupts his lecture to pull him aside and tell him that she is ending their relationship and dropping his class. Tree arrives at the lunch meeting with a platter of fast food, which he proudly consumes. Tree refuses to let Becky go despite Danielle's attempts to make her leave and instead takes Becky's chocolate milk to humiliate Danielle by pouring it on her head. When Carter returns Tree's jewelry, she gives him a public kiss in front of the other sisters. Carter is then invited to celebrate her birthday with her later that evening. Tree and her father David, Jason Bell, go out to lunch. Since her mother passed away, she says it has been difficult to be around him, but she also tells him she loves him and is sorry for hurting him. To lighten the mood, the two start laughing before sitting down to lunch. Tree is ready to chase after Toombs. She approaches the security guy with a knife, snatches his gun, and orders him to seek backup. Then, when Toombs pretends to be asleep, Tree enters his room and points a revolver at him. Despite forgetting to remove the safety, she attempts to shoot him. Toombs stands up and attacks Tree, shoving her forcefully up against the wall. Tree suddenly recalls that there would be a temporary blackout, which will happen just in time for her to get out of Toombs's line of sight. She emerges from behind him, removes the safety, and then shoots Toombs to death. Tree eats the cupcake Lori made her after she blows it out and makes a wish, and they spend the rest of the evening together. Tree regains consciousness in Carter's room. Playing is the birthday ringtone. The 18th is still Monday. She wonders how she could still be caught in the cycle as she feels irritated and confused. Lori offers her the cupcake once again as she rushes to her room to find her. Tree turns it down and claims she ate it the night before, but then she feels it hit her. The cupcake was poisoned from the start, which is why she passed away while she was sleeping. She realizes Lori was the murderer the entire time because she had never eaten the cupcake before. Due to Toombs' past and the fact that Lori works at the hospital, she was able to let him out and make it appear as though he killed Tree. Tree discovers the baby mask in Lori's desk, which serves to emphasize the point even more. Tree tries to coerce Lori into eating the cupcake and even makes police aware of it. The truth is revealed by Lori, who calls Tree a dumb bitch and admits that the whole thing was because a guy she likes was more interested in her than Tree. As Lori attempts to put an end to Tree once and for all, the two start to fight. Lori has Tree pinned to the bed when Danielle enters the room, but Tree is able to grab the cupcake and ram it right into Lori's mouth. Tree then leaps to her feet and grabs the ceiling light in order to kick Lori out the window and kill her. Tree and Carter are watching the news story on the incident in a restaurant while Danielle conducts an interview just for publicity. Tree has no knowledge of Groundhog Day or Bill Murray, while Carter attempts to explain to her how her predicament is similar to that movie. The birthday ringtone can be heard once more when Tree awakens. Carter presents herself as having just woken up from a hangover. When Carter tells Tree that he was only playing a joke on her and that it is actually Tuesday, the 19th, Tree begins to panic. Before they start kissing, they make fun of it and kick Ryan out when he tries to enter again.
It's